version, and reading it takes 9. Tasmai Svalokam Bhagavan Sabhajita. Tasmai Svalokam Bhagavan Sabhajita. Sandarshayam Asaparam Nayatparam. Sandarshayam Asaparam Nayatparam. Yapeta Sanklesha Vimoha Sadhvasa. Yapeta Sanklesha Vimoha Sadhvasa. Swadrishta by those who have perfectly realized the self. Purushai by persons. Abhishtutam worshipped by. The personality of Godhead, being thus very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adored by all self-realized persons, freed from all kinds of miseries and fear of illusory existence. Please repeat. The personality of Godhead, being thus very much satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to manifest his personal abode, Vaikuntha, the supreme planet above all others. This transcendental abode of the Lord is adored by all self-realized persons, freed from all kinds of miseries and fear of illusory existence. The troubles of penance accepted by Lord Brahma were certainly in the line of devotional service, bhakti. Otherwise, there was no chance that Vaikuntha or Svalokam, the Lord's personal abodes, would become visible to Brahmaji. The personal abodes of the Lord, known as Vaikunthas, are neither mythical nor material, as conceived by the impersonalists. But realization of the transcendental abodes of the Lord is possible only through devotion. devotional service, and thus the devotees enter into such abodes. There is undoubtedly trouble in executing penance, but the trouble accepted in executing Bhakti Yoga is transcendental happiness. From the very beginning, whereas the trouble of penance in other processes of self-realization, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, etc., without any Vaikuntha realization, ends in trouble only and nothing more. There is no profit in biting husks without grains. Similarly, there is no profit in executing troublesome penances other than Bhakti Yoga for self-realization. Executing Bhakti Yoga is exactly like sitting on the lotus sprouted out of the abdomen of the transcendental personality of Godhead. For Lord Brahma was seated there. Brahmaji was able to please the Lord, and the Lord was also pleased to show Brahmaji his personal abode. Srila Jiva Goswami, in the comments of his Brahma Skandharva, annotation of Srimad Bhagavatam, cites quotations from the Garga Upanishad, Vedic evidence. It is said that Yajnavalkya described the transcendental abode of the Lord to Gargi, and that the abode of the Lord is situated above the highest planet of the universe, namely Brahmaloka. This abode of the Lord, although described in revealed scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, remains only a myth for the less intelligent class of men with a poor fund of knowledge. Herein the word Swadrishtavadihi is very significant. One who has actually realized his self realizes the transcendental form of one's self. Impersonal realization of the self and the supreme is not complete because it is just an opposite conception of material personalities. The personality of Godhead and the personalities of devotees of the Lord are all transcendental. They do not have material bodies. The material body is overcast with 5 kinds of miserable conditions, namely ignorance, material conception, attachment, hatred, and absorption. As long as one is overwhelmed by these 5 kinds of material miseries, there is no question of entering into the Vaikuntha lokas. The impersonal conception of oneself is just the negation of material personality and is far from the positive existence of personal form. The personal forms of the transcendental abode, which will be explained in the following verses. Brahmaji also described the highest planet of the Vaikuntha Loka as Goloka Vrindavan, where the Lord resides as a cowherd boy, keeping transcendental Surabhi cows and surrounded by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. Chintamani Parasarva Sukha Vriksha Daksha Vriteshu Surabhira Vipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahmasedyamanam Govindamari Pusham Namaham Vajami. It's Brahma Samhita 529. The statement of the Bhagavad Gita, Yad Katva Na Nivartante Tad Dharma Paramam Mama, is also confirmed here with Param means transcendental Brahman. Therefore, the abode of the Lord is also Brahman, not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is known as Vaikuntha, and his abode is also known as Vaikuntha. Such Vaikuntha realization and worship can be made possible by transcendental form and sense. So I seek the blessings of all the devotees that I can speak something that is beneficial for all of us and for myself, purification. So whatever I'm speaking is preaching to my own mind. So here Prabhupada mentions Swalokam, Krishna is mentioning his own planet, the supreme abode. So we'll just briefly look at the difference between Vaikuntha Loka, which is a spiritual planets, and the material world and the material planets. So Vaikuntha, so firstly, Kunta means a place of suffering, place of misery. So this material world is described as Kunta. And the spiritual world, the spiritual planets, is described as Vaikuntha, place of no suffering. Who can think about why the material world is a place of suffering and the spiritual world is described as a place of no suffering? So before you answer that, we'll just look at the distinction between a spiritual body, where Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the body of the Lord and the bodies of the devotees are transcendental. So they are Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat is eternal, Chit, knowledgeable, and blissful. So spiritual bodies have these qualities, whereas the material body we are covered by gross and subtle coverings. And we are overcast, Prabhupada mentions, by these 5 miserable conditions. We are put into ignorance. We have this material conception that this is my body, this is my family, this is my husband, my wife, my children, my country, my house, my car. We have attachment for these things, and then we develop also hatred if we don't get it, or if we do get it and then we seek away, and then there's absorption, which takes away our consciousness from Krishna. So what is the difference between the spiritual and material world? So I'll start off. In the material world, there is birth. What else do we have in the material world that is not existing in the spiritual world? Yes, disease. In the material world is disease, and the spiritual world is no disease. Okay. Yes, this old age is not existing in the spiritual world. It's described that Krishna is ever youthful and his associates are also ever youthful. And the fourth one, death. Yes. So our goal is to go back to the spiritual world where there is no birth, death, old age, and disease. And Krishna mentions that these personal abodes, these abodes in Vaikuntha Lokas are his personal abodes, whereas the material world is a place of reformation. It's a prison house, Durga, which means a prison house. Just like a prisoner, he may be very wealthy and he ends up in prison somehow or other. The law officers have got him in prison, so he may pay a very high price and he may get a first-class prison cell, and he can have a TV and some luxury. But at the end of the day, he's still in a prison. So it may be a first-class prison or a second-class prison, it's still a prison. So Srila Prabhupada's disciples in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.29 mentions the different grades of planets. So it mentions that, referring to Bhagavad Gita 8.16, where it talks about Abrahma Pupanaloka Guna Avartino Arjuna. So in that verse, it says that from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So the disciples mentioned that every planet within the material universe is an unsuitable and inappropriate residence, because on each planet there are the primal defects of old age and death. The Lord assures us, however, that in his transcendental abode, which lies far beyond the material cosmos, life is everlasting, blissful, and absolutely cognizant. we hear in Bhagavad Gita that there's 8,400,000 species of life. And this human form of life, we attain it after evolving from the lower species of life. And it's a great gift by the Lord. So it says in that same purport, it is urgent that people be informed of the great danger of misusing this valuable human life, and that they know of the great opportunity the human life affords, the opportunity to take to Krishna consciousness. So this human brain is evolved. So we hear it time and again from the scriptures that the animals, they also eat and the humans also eat. The animals mate and the humans also mate and have children. So there's the eating, sleeping, mating and defending is also there in the animals. So what is the difference between an animal and a human being? Is the evolved consciousness that we can inquire into the higher questions in life, that who am I, who is God, and what is my relationship with Him, and how we can go back to the spiritual world where we don't have to come back in the Ferris wheel, in the cycle of birth and death, going up and down in the different species of life. There's no substance in it. It's just like, it's actually sickening. If anyone's been on a Ferris wheel and they keep going back on the rides, if you try to go on the Ferris wheel 24 hours in the day, you throw up literally. I remember when I was in Zimbabwe, my brother went on the Ferris wheel and he threw up, and it was really disgusting. So that's and it was thinking that. So that's how, we kind of laugh because it is kind of fun, but that's what we are doing in the material world. We are trying to, enjoy this material world. We're trying to chew what is already chewed, trying to get some juice out of the sugarcane stick, but there's no juice there. We're trying to, like Vaisheshika Prabhu mentions, that the perverted permutations and the different diversions, we're trying to enjoy different angles and different bodies. Sometimes we can't even conceive of these different creatures. It's inconceivable. Like there's one fish which has like a light bulb, an aquatic. And then there's the tiningilla fish. So different types of bodies trying to enjoy different angles, but it's all the same thing, the same happiness that a dog gets by mating in the public roads is the same as a human being trying to enjoy sex life in a posh building, in a skyscraper building. The same degree of enjoyment is there in the dog's life as the human's life. It's just a polished, trying to enjoy in a polished way, but there's no substance in it. So Prabhupada mentions in this book that the highest planet is Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna resides with his devotees and the Surabhi cows, with hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. So why are we doing devotional service? We see that in the spiritual world there's hundreds and millions of goddesses of fortune, and there's no dust in the spiritual world, but we see the goddess of fortune. They are the queens, they're most opulent and rich, beautiful, fortunate ladies, and they are dusting the Vaikuntha planet, even though there's no dust. So we can learn from their example that why we are doing devotional service is for our own purification. Krishna doesn't need our service, just like it's described the goddesses. He has millions of goddesses of fortune. It's described that when he incarnated as Narayan Rishi, then out of his own body he emanated millions of goddesses of fortune. And Cupid was amazed and astonished because he was trying to distract Lord Narayan from his meditation, and he was shocked that this amazing, beautiful women are coming out from his own body. So we see from this example that devotional service is for our own purification. In Srimad Bhagavatam 4:26-3, Prabhupada mentions that we're trying to enjoy, it's like Shrama eva hi kevalam, that continuously trying to enjoy something which we can't get enjoyment out of. Just like we want to eat ice cream or any of our favorite food, pizza, we can't keep eating it 24/7, 7 days a week, we'll be sick of it. So in the spiritual world, it's not like that. It's ever fresh. We perform some service, just like it's described that in the spiritual world, time is conspicuous by its absence. So it's not that how we might perceive it with our material consciousness that time doesn't exist, because there's also night and day, and there's different times. The Astakaliya Lila, different times of the day, different pastimes are going on. But the actual understanding of the non-presence of time is that the activities are not influenced by the decaying process of time, where time devolves everything and it becomes degraded. Just like we have some fruit, if we leave it outside, especially in our climate now, it's in summer and we leave it outside, in 2 days' time it will be rotten. But in the spiritual world, everything is ever fresh. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 6:332 purport, Prabhupada refers to Bhagavad Gita 9:21, where it says that in the period of, so we understand that we have a bank balance and we're working very hard, and some people who are like in the corporate industry, they're accumulating a lot of money. So they have a big bank balance, and then they go away on holiday, so they're using up that bank balance. So that credit is being used up. So it's just like that, we do some good activity in the material world and then we reap the good results. And we may, after death, we may go to a higher planet. So it's described that, just like Prabhupada mentions, Hawaii is like a heavenly planet. You can go out, you don't even have to work, you can just pick fruits off the trees, huge mangoes, everything, you can live an opulent life. But in this purport, Prabhupada mentions, when the period of one's enjoyment in the heavenly planets is terminated, so the bank balance is used up for credit, because of the limited extent of the results of one's pious activities, one must return to earth. Thus, there is no use in endeavoring to travel up and down in the universe. It is better to chant the holy name of the Lord, so that one may become fully purified and eligible to return home back to Godhead. That is the aim of life, and that is the perfection of life. So Prabhupada is mentioning many times in all the scriptures that we need to chant the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, and eat Krishna Prasadam, because we're so conditioned, even us as aspiring devotees, we may be doing devotional service, but we get influenced by the lower modes of nature, and it's a constant, I wouldn't say all the time struggle, but it's a constant endeavor. We need to be determined in our Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada gives the example of the elephants bathing. The elephant goes in the lake and bathes, and then when it goes on the bank, it again puts dust on its body. So by this chanting process, we can actually purify the heart and the mind, so that we don't keep putting dirt on ourselves. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 6:49-50, Prabhupada mentions that nothing is possible without tapasya, which is austerity. Lord Brahma, however, was empowered to create this entire universe because of his austerities. The more we engage in austerities, the more we become powerful by the grace of the Lord. So just like in the material world, we go to university. I went to university as an adult when I was in Auckland, and we see that we need to do some austerity. Friday night comes, most people go out partying, but then assignments are coming up. If the person sacrifices that time, instead of going out to the nightclub or going to a party, they will study hard so they can get that, pass the exams and get a degree and then get a job. So even materially speaking, we do austerities, we make some sacrifices to achieve something. So spiritual life is not something cheap. It's not that it's something airy-fairy that we think, oh, I just need to chant and we need to read, and then we need to also understand that why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I coming into the temple? Why am I bowing down to the devotees, to Krishna? It's so that we can seek blessings from the devotees and Krishna, just like Brahma did all these austerities, and he says he was empowered by the Lord to perform all the activities that he's able to do. Just like we get a university degree, is we getting that knowledge and we applying that knowledge, and through practice we getting more and more experience, and then we are able to achieve more. But one thing Prabhupada mentions also in Shikshashtakam, Lord Chaitanya's prayers, Srimad Bhagavatam Karori Ivasa Krishna, Amanina Manalina Kirtana Sadhavi, that whatever activity we do, whatever position we are given gifts by the Lord, that we should always understand that we are very insignificant servants of the Lord, and we may achieve great results and we may do great activities in service to the Lord, but we should never think that I am the one who's done this, because as soon as pride comes, then there's a saying that pride comes before the fall. So we should always remain in a humble position, understanding that whatever I am able to do is by the mercy of the Lord and His pure devotees. So there's this principle called Yukta Vairagya. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 17:1, Prabhupada mentions this great king like Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Amrish Maharaj. They used 100% of their opulence in the Lord's service. So it doesn't mean that when we are practicing devotional service that we all need to be remaining poor and humble. So we try to, sometimes we understand humility through our material conception, that we think I need to be a doormat, and I shouldn't say anything, let people walk all over me and something. Now, Hanuman was the greatest, most humble devotee, but when he went to Lanka, he climbed up on the highest pole and he started roaring, I am Hanuman, servant of Lord Ram. So materially we might think, that's arrogance, and that he burned the whole Lanka. But that is humility. Humility is understanding that I am a servant of the Lord, and I am only able to achieve service to the Lord and His pure devotees by understanding that my power is coming from Krishna. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 17, 14 purport, it's mentioned there that Lord Chaitanya was asking, because the devotees were asking him that you're going to Vrindavan, please take a servant with you who can assist you in your service. So there was this servant who went previously with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose name was Kala Krishna Das. So he was in the direct association with Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna himself, but he was distracted by these Bhattaharis, who they had like like gypsy people, and he was attracted by the women. So in this purport, Madhya 17:14, it says, Maya is so strong that unless one is determined not to fall victim, even the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot give protection. The Supreme Lord and his representative always want to give protection, but a person must take advantage of their personal contact. If one thinks that the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his representative is an ordinary man, he will certainly fall down. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not want a person like Gala Krishna Das to accompany him. So we also hear the example of Krishna's own son, Bhaumasura, because of his bad association with Vidita and other associates. His own son, Krishna, had to kill him because Narakasura, because of his bad association. So it doesn't mean that, okay, once we, my spiritual master, Krishna Goswami says, one initiation, he clicked his fingers and says, okay, now initiation, I'm riding on the Vaikuntha plane, it's an easy ride for me. No, once we come in Krishna consciousness, whatever stage of Krishna consciousness we may be in, and however so many years we've been practicing, it's a constant endeavor, and we need to practice with determination and conviction, because it's shown by this example, this Kala Krishna Das, he personally was serving Lord Chaitanya. So we may be personally, this instruction to my own mind, my own self, we may be directly serving the Lord, we may be dressing the Lord, whatever service we may be doing, we may be having some position. But wherever we are, we need to constantly be introspective and look at our own Krishna consciousness and see where am I in my Krishna consciousness, what am I doing, and why am I constantly questioning why am I doing what I'm doing, not just mechanically coming and following the process of the arti, japa. It's constantly trying to go deeper within the heart and practicing. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita 16, 280 and 281, Kadada Pandit was saying to Lord Chaitanya, because he wanted to go on pilgrimage. Kadada Pandit is saying to Lord Chaitanya, wherever you stay is Vrindavan, as well as River Yamuna, the river Ganges, and all other places of pilgrimage. So we see also in the example of Srila Prabhupada that the pure devotee carries Vrindavan in their heart and their mind. So it's not that Vrindavan is a physical location, it's actually a matter of consciousness. So in text 281, the purport, it says that Lord Chaitanya, he went to Vrindavan to show his personal example. So on one hand, he's showing that Kadada Pandit is showing that Vrindavan or the Vaikuntha planet is a matter of consciousness, because one may be living in the holy Dham, but may be doing all abominable activities, just like Prabhupada mentioned that these hogs and monkeys and dogs in Vrindavan, they're actually sages who took birth there because in their previous life they were doing all illicit activity, but still they're sages and they're getting an opportunity to get more purified and go back to Godhead. So it's not that a physical location or a physical title or a physical position, a certain number of years practicing and having tilak and wearing sari, dhoti, having a shika is determines our state of consciousness, our Krishna consciousness. So that is only between us and Krishna and the spiritual master and our confidential Siksha gurus and friends that we confide in. And this must be done very carefully and in confidence. Not that we may feel fallen and then we publicly publicize our own where we are, because that can disturb others and disturb our own Krishna consciousness. So we always need to be introspective. So Lord Chaitanya is showing by a personal example that Vaikuntha consciousness is Vaikuntha is a matter of consciousness, but he's also showing that he physically went to the holy Dham in this here 16:281. He talks about how he went to Vrindavan, showing personal example that we need to also go to the Dham and see through spiritual consciousness, because in this Prabhupada was saying that someone asked him, why are you going to Vrindavan? Materialists consider Vrindavan Dham an unclean city because there are many monkeys and dogs there, and also the bank of the Yamuna there is refuse. Some time ago, a materialistic man asked me, this is Srila Prabhupada, why are you living in Vrindavan? Why have you selected such a dirty place to live after retiring? Some materialistic people who have no spiritual understanding go to Vrindavan as tourists. One who goes to Vrindavan with such materialistic vision cannot derive any spiritual benefit. So when we enter in the Dham, we need to prepare our consciousness. So sometimes externally also in the Dham, we may see so-called devotees doing nonsense, or we may see, refuse, rubbish lying around. So it's not that we also need to judge, but we need to also be introspective and be very careful when we enter in the Dham and when we're practicing Krishna consciousness, because it's described that spiritual life is like a razor's edge, a moment's inattention. Like in the old days, the men would have this kind of razor thing, not like how they would have the safe ones now, get cut, and then, moment's inattention and you get cut and you start bleeding. So spiritual life, it's not that Prabhupada is trying to scare us, but we need to just be mindful and conscious that always try to be introspective in our practice, and have good friends, at least have one friend who we can confide in, that how am I going, I had this experience, and I did this, and I feel really bad about it, how can I rectify the situation, and then move forward. It's not like, a child is trying to walk and the child falls down and is bleeding and starts crying, and the mother says, okay, you stay down and, this is how you're going to be. No, the child stands up again, tries to walk. Eventually, the child will start walking and running. So it's not that, we may have accidents and fall downs or whatever difficulties we may face. We need to constantly get up and keep moving forward. That's why we need to have at least one good friend who we can confide in and keep moving forward and make progress in spiritual life. And I remember once Devamrita Swami came and one devotee was asking, I don't eat my wife's cooking, And then Devamrita Swami, he's been practicing for many years, he's seen everything, he's heard from disciples and everything like that, and he's read and he started laughing. He said, sometimes in spiritual life the wife may be more advanced and sometimes the husband may be more advanced. So it's not that, we are there to help each other. It's not just husband-wife relationship, but in the community. And we also need to see, not like we can click with everyone and, everyone lovey-dovey. In the spiritual world also, there's different spiritual camps. And it's not like it's a bad thing, but it's nature. Everyone's got different natures, so you hang out with people who have a similar nature, but you're always respectful of everyone. But you see who I can click with and who I can, I feel enlivened in my Krishna consciousness and move forward. So, main thing is that we need to perform austerities, and it says in spiritual life austerities are joyful. In the association of devotees who actually is experiencing austerity here. We're enjoying here in New Govardhana, we have everything. We have so much opulence. We're living in paradise. And we just need to keep moving forward, help each other in our Krishna consciousness. And always be introspective in our practice. Whatever service we're doing, it's not that, obviously it's higher service, worshiping the deity is the highest service. But if I have to make, sweep the floor or have to do paraphernalia, it's just like, oh, just get it done, tick the box, there I go. Everything we need to do it consciously because Krishna is watching us. Am I doing this nicely? Am I making the extra effort to wipe the surface, making it easier for another devotee's service, facilitating? And it doesn't have to be a big announcement or anything. Just in our own, be introspective in our own practice that how can I improve the quality of my service? Or I'm inspired by someone, look how they dressed or whatever, how can I also be improved on that? So always being inspired and encouraging others and appreciating others. So I'll end there if anyone has any questions, comments, questions, or realizations. Yes, please. We have a microphone.
Yeah, regarding the difference between the material world and spiritual world, so Krishna's expanded as a super soul in the material world, and thus he knows, us intimately. But I can't remember. I can't figure it out. I haven't got a definite answer. How is Krishna expanded as a super soul in the spiritual world?
I've heard that in the spiritual world, Krishna he travels with us in the material world in our heart as a super soul. When we go back to the spiritual world, he's actually directly relating with us. We have that direct relationship. So he's directly present as Krishna. So we are engaged with him directly. Whereas in the material world, he's inspiring us as Chaitanya Guru within the heart and guiding us that way. But in the spiritual world, we are directly interacting with Krishna.
Prabhupada mentions in the purport pointed how the personal understanding is just a negation of the material. And I was considering that on the one hand, the Vaishnavas are not satisfied with the incompleteness of that just negation of the material. But on the other hand, the spiritual world is known by such a, most commonly known as Vaikuntha, which seems like a negation of the suffering, so like pleasure without suffering, so it seems a bit strange that our meditation on the use of the name of the place is based on the suffering of the material world. So I can't help but wonder if there's some deeper meaning to Vaikuntha, or anything else to share in relation to that. I'm just wondering why that would be such a point.
I've heard that Vaikuntha, in the spiritual world, we hear how the gopis are also suffering because of separation from Krishna. And they also have transcendental anxiety. Mother Yashoda has an anxiety, or the milk is boiling over, the Damodar Leela, and I need to save that milk for Krishna. Or when Krishna is in the coils of Kaliya. So anxiety and suffering is there, but it's not how we perceive it in the material world. It's transcendental anxiety. Like in the material world, I've experienced anxiety and stress, and then it physically manifests and we get sick. But in the spiritual world, there's no disease, there's no sickness. But that anxiety and suffering is transcendental because it's connected to Krishna. So that's my small understanding of that.
talking about like if you have certain pride and you're practicing introspectiveness, right? That you should not publicly expose that because you could disturb yourself and others. How could you explain a bit more about that? What the specific dangers would be?
I heard there was once his name, the Maharaj, starting with him, who fell away. Madhurisa Swami. So he had some fall down, and then the temple president told all the temple presidents all over the world and informed them about his fall down. And Prabhupada was so upset, he was crying. He said, now you have made it impossible for him to come back. So it created difficulty for him. And also there was one other sannyasi who had some difficulty with the pornography, even though like he was really, kind, humble, everything. And then disciples went to visit him, and they, his godbrothers, and they told him, don't reveal this in public, but it was too late, he already revealed it. So some people, we might have immature understanding of Krishna consciousness, and we may judge externally, or he's into pornography and stuff. But actually, he had a difficulty. He had a genuine difficulty. And who are we to judge? We have our own difficulties. And there was one, let me just slip my mind. It says in Prabhupada mentions how if one commits the most abominable activity, as long as he is following the path, he is to be considered as righteous. So wherever we are, or we may have had some bad experience with a certain something, then we might keep a distance because we might become offensive. Oh, he did that, she did that, I'm not mistaken. So we need to also keep a distance. Okay, I have some previous bad experience regarding this, and it's triggering something bad for me. So I need to keep away from that. But someone who has a bit more maybe mature understanding, or they haven't been affected in the past by this thing, they can also, pray for that person, be respectful, and still, if you can, still hold friendship with that person. So you see the godbrothers of that devotee, they didn't look down on him because he had that difficulty. They were visiting him, and they were devotees to Krishna, arranged devotees to chant with him. And there was one example where a Prabhupada disciple, he was engaged in illicit activity. He ended up in hospital with AIDS, and he had a girlfriend there. And then the devotees found out after he left his body, and she said that she didn't know much about Krishna consciousness. He actually sat up on the bed. He says, and his eyes were wide. He says, Prabhupada, you came. He was shocked. Prabhupada never forgot he is sincere. So, shouldn't never forget how sincere. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good.